You can't tell me you wouldn't want to take that for a fang.
He borrowed his boss's car. Now, that's got to be the winner.
First thing I did was put extractors on it.
Yep.
What a stupid thing to do.
A lot of people get stuck with, they think they need, all the gear on their four-wheel drive just to go out.
I bet there's a lot of people just laughing going, that's me. That's me.
I've
I'm in that boat.
Oh, I've got to spend 3 weeks in the bush with this bloke, and I am I'm looking forward to it. Well, folks, welcome to another episode of Beers in the Shed. This time, this is one of those rare events where
we're together.
We're doing it.
And we're in my shed this time.
We're doing it.
And my shed's looking really messy at the moment. I want to apologise, but I don't really mean that because
it's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on here, if you can't half tell. We're in the middle of a couple of big builds. Obviously, we're going away today. We're not taking these rigs.
Well, you couldn't, unless you're going to put your feet through the bottom and go like that.
You know what? We started the motor on this one yesterday.
You can't see it, folks, but inside there, absolute work of art. I'm not Toyota.
It's going to be cool. This has been a build that, I'll tell you what, it's been going for some time now, and a few spanners been thrown in the works, mate. But
literally.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Speaking of which, that's exactly what we're going to sort of talk about today on the hot topic: builds. The mistakes made.
We've built a lot of cars and made a heck of a lot of mistakes. We thought we'd pass some of those things and maybe just give you guys a little bit of advice for your own build. So the biggest thing is you want to be happy with the rig that you're building.
100%.
And you don't want to be wasting money.
And time.
And time, a lot of time.
Yeah,
and
you can do.
You get a bit of a bump steer on the wrong way to go with your build. You're going to be up for all of those three things. You're not going to be happy with the end result. Well, later in the show, mate, we're giving away 10 EVC throttle controllers and also 10 code breakers. They're those handheld code breakers. You're like a scan tool, essentially. You can go through if you... you get a couple of lights on the dash you shouldn't have. You can, but you can do so much more. It pretty much works as a gauge as well.
Yeah, you can tell your fuel efficiency, the whole lot. They're really handy to have. But
10. We'll tell you how to win those a bit later on.
Stay tuned. Let's get stuck into it. Mistakes, builds. We're going to be hearing from Jocko as well too, because Jock pretty much lives in the shed building cars, and I reckon there's one bloke out there that's made more mistakes than him. I'd like to meet him because Jock has made every mistake under the sun. So we'll be hearing from Jocko too, mate. But in your humble opinion, what would you call maybe the two biggest mistakes people make when building up now, folks, I must just say here, we're not talking taking bar work off, putting bar work on.
Yeah.
We are talking ground up builds.
Yeah, all sorts of just modifications and people's dreams and aspirations when it comes to building a car. I think everyone's got some dreams, what they want to do with the old girl to get it going.
Is that your dream?
This was a dream. The dream has been drumped. It's now a parts car for that one.
Which is looking so good.
Which, you know what, I've learnt so much on this vehicle, which now I'm putting into this vehicle, and now I started this vehicle, I've learnt so much more.
You know what's funny? I've just got to jump in here for a second. Yeah. Something funny happened before. You guys didn't get to see it. Have a look at this vehicle and what it's been through, and the dings and the nicks and the scratches. Look at the door behind you there.
Yeah.
Now, just a second ago, I accidentally leant my chair up against his guard, and he moved me an inch forward so that I didn't scratch his new... That will give him a month and you won't care about that.
It might look a bit different in a month's time.
but that made me laugh. Let's just go really quickly in this one here, mate. We've got engine conversions here because we see it a lot. Barra swap GUs and the like.
Everyone wants to do an engine conversion.
I think it's, I've
done 2 engine conversions because this is actually an engine conversion right now.
It is.
And you know what? I was working on this with a couple of mates yesterday all day, put the engine in, and the amount of dramas I've had doing an engine conversion, because that's used to be a petrol body. Now, if I just taken the time, it was a lot more money to buy a diesel donor vehicle. So I thought I'll cut a couple of corners here.
How much different can it be?
I'll put a diesel into a petrol. That is one of the hardest things I've ever done because everything has to change. And the frustration yesterday when I thought, surely that'll bolt up, it doesn't. For instance, the cross member, because it was an auto petrol, and this is a manual diesel, all of a sudden the cross member doesn't fit. It's about 100 mil difference, which is a big pain because that means I've got to fabricate a whole new cross member instead of bolting something up.
You know what I'm sort of gutted? I'm saying this in a nice way because you're a very good mate, but what I'm sort of gutted about is that you didn't finish the whole thing and go, yeah, it works, drive out of here and go to the servo. Because you would have got the diesel pump out and you would have gone tunk, tunk, tunk.
This is the other thing. I was whinging yesterday on the phone to him. So I've changed all the tanks around, obviously, because it was a petrol car. And when it came to putting the jerry, to fill it up with a bit of diesel to start it, I realised that the actual filler is a lot smaller on a petrol. So not only do I have to change the tanks, but the whole system, nearly every nut and bolt needs to be changed on that vehicle, which is just insane.
So what we're saying here, had you spent maybe 5, 8, let's call it craziness, 10 grand more, that car would almost be finished.
Here's another one. So it gets even better, right? So I spent a bit of time, I took the dash completely out, put a whole new wiring loom from a diesel, put the dash all back together. Now, there's a day's work putting the dash and the interior back together. I've just realised that when I've gone to fit a clutch pedal, it doesn't fit because there's a little crush tube that runs behind the dash that are very different between the diesel ones and the manual ones compared to the petrol auto ones. So I need to now take the dash back out of that one, back out of this one, swap the one cross bar across, which will bolt up.
But
you know,
everything's got to come out again.
Everything has to be changed. So I guess we're talking about engine conversions. Just be mindful. Nothing is plug and play.
No.
And then you go down the track, and you've got your Barra that you've been dreaming about in your GQ, and you're so stoked about it. Now you break down somewhere in the bush, and you're trying to work out, well, was that a Ford part? Was that a Nissan part, or was that Volvo thing that I found at the wreckers to make that bit work?
Yep.
You know, you've got lots of different pieces.
And it depends. You might be one of those guys, for example, I'm going to say it, Jocko, he froths on that. He'd be under there. But if you're not, if you're a bit like myself, who just wants to be out in the bush, that can be one of the most frustrating things in the world.
It can be, especially if you've gone to the effort and expense to do an engine conversion and it's not reliable.
Doesn't quite do
I've
what you
seen
want
it
it to
happen
do.
so many times. It's like, oh, it's good, but it just overheats, or it's good, but it just breaks down every time I want to take it out.
Yep.
I bet there's a lot of people just laughing, going, "That's me. That's me. I'm in that boat."
I've done that. Now, look, we had a young guy come in and give us a bit of advice here. This is from Glenn. Now, we're putting this under the topic of wrong mods. Now, what Glenn has gone and done, an immaculate build, he's put 35. He's put a 7-inch lift on 35s on a short wheelbase GQ. He's done everything right. Like, he's really gone to town on this build. But what he has then found, 90% of the time it sits in his driveway because he's dead scared of driving it because he'll get defected. So he's bought himself an Isuzu D-Max, and he's learnt from that because he can drive the D-Max anywhere in Australia, turnkey and go. Doesn't have to worry about it. So he's even admitted it to himself. He did the wrong thing.
Well, that's the thing about there's a lot of my mates who want to put 35s on their vehicle. 35s are great if you spend the money to make it right and get it
100%.
engineered and do all those sort of things. A lot of people will put a bigger lift in, but they don't get the right lift. The car doesn't handle like it used to.
Yep.
Now they've got the big tyres on it, scrubs. It doesn't turn corners better, it doesn't brake properly, and then it puts a lot of like wear and tear on like all the drivetrain pieces. So they might start snapping CVs, axle studs. All of a sudden they're up for bearings every 5,000 kilometres. Going to those 35s was the wrong mod to do, maybe.
Speaking of experience here, I've just gone and done it right on the Y62. We've just got it regoed now. I'm actually street legal on 37s.
On 37s?
On 37s, I'm street legal. My tyre placard is for 37s, so I'm street legal on that. But that's an engineered car.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go doing it if it wasn't engineered.
Well, that's right.
It's really worthwhile getting that mod plate done right.
100%.
You never have to
Without a
worry
doubt.
about it again.
It's heartbreaking when you go and spend all that money on a car to modify it to what you want. You want this, car with 35s and all the rest of it. Then you go to drive, it's your daily driver, and it's all over the place, and all of a sudden it's a danger on the roads.
And horrible to drive. You don't enjoy
Horrible to drive.
Yep.
You get the right mods. This one was actually lovely to drive on 35s, but a lot of work has gone into it to get it to that point. So.
One more thing I found, mate, just in the build-up of the 62 is I got it home pre-rego. I got all my accessories there ready to go. I knew what I wanted. I bolted all those accessories on. Took me a couple of days. Then finally my mod plate came through and I was ready to take it over the pits. Your rego is based on the weight of your vehicle. I'd added 500 kilos to this vehicle. I had to take absolutely everything off again, take it across the pits, bring it back and put absolutely everything back on it again. Just a little tip out there. If you are doing a pre-rego build, a lot of people do, especially on new vehicles, don't do anything to your vehicle until you've got your number plates on the front. It'll save you a lot of time and a heck of a lot of money.
What about this, mate? And this is something I suppose I've learnt recently in stripping cars down and doing a big project. I'm probably tackling a job that's beyond my pay grade, to be honest. But what's so cool about it is I'm having a go.
And learning.
I'm learning so much along the way. And one of the things I have learnt is when you are stripping down a vehicle, get all the parts and probably label where they came from. Because at the time when you're taking it apart, I'm like,
super excited.
Well, those bolts go there, these bolts go here. It's all great until you've left that project for a month and you've come back and you go, right, we're going to put the dash back in. Where are the dash bolts again?
Yep.
Where was that little bracket that goes there? Or I guess what I'm trying to say is be quite organised. If you don't have the skill set like me, maybe to know, I'm not Mr. Rain Man who just remembers everything. I can't, and I get back up to it a day or two later, and it's not fresh in my mind. And I've been losing parts around my shed, which is pretty easy to do when it's looking like this at the moment.
And it doesn't have to be, you're doing a massive build. Look at this thing, ground up. It doesn't have to be that gnarly. You could be doing something quite simple that involves 5 or 6 parts.
Yeah.
What I do is just lay them out in the order I took them off in, so that you can put them back in that order. And if you're really unsure like me, if you're an absolute doomfus, I take photos of every step as well on your
clever.
phone.
That's super clever.
Just
Even
so
if you're installing a winch or taking your winch on and off or something, taking what it looked like when it was done, where the bolts were, even some little videos, you can always go back. I wish I took more photos and videos of certain things.
Would have needed a lot of photos and videos.
One of the things that's been really good on a build of this is having like a parts car or a reference car, because I go over and go, how do the aircon lines go, or how did the brake lines go?
And they're all
I'll have
still
a quick
there.
look over here and I go, that little bracket, that bolt's there, righto.
Yep.
And I can go and have a go.
Yep.
And I think every single four-wheel driver out there is in the same boat. They want a bit more power out of their rig. So let's talk about chasing power.
Well, mate, I'm going to go straight up. When I was a young bloke, had a shorty, first thing I did was put extractors on it.
Yep.
What a stupid thing to do. It did nothing. It made it sound like a fart in a bottle, and that's about it. It didn't go any faster. And I remember they cost me about $1,800 for everything all the way through.
Yep.
Back then,
it's a lot of money. A lot of money. I've got a very similar story. I think every young bloke out there wants an exhaust for their four-wheel drive.
Yep.
And, the right exhaust for your four-wheel drive is a great thing. But,
beautiful.
But sometimes when you're limited for cash,
it's not the right thing to do.
Is it the first thing you go and do?
Perhaps not.
And if you own a Suzuki Sierra 1.3 litre, do you go and buy? Because I bought extractors and an exhaust system.
Yes, I
thought, it's going to give a bit more power.
Yep.
It's a 1.3 litre engine. It was never making any more power.
No.
Yet I spent it was about $1,000 at the time.
Yep.
And a lot of heartache because I got it from the States and didn't quite fit properly. And there was I tried to cut a corner in the budget and it didn't quite fit. It cost more money to get it installed.
Yep.
I could have put that money into something that would have been a lot better. Off-road, camping, all that sort of stuff,
100%. I guess it comes down to what you want to use it for, but chasing power, that's a big one, man.
Well, let's talk about those people chasing a lot more power. Not the sort of 3% more power by trying to fit a big exhaust on a little petrol car, but let's talk about, chasing big power.
Yeah.
So, especially in the diesel world, the guys that drive petrol just seem to have power and they're happy with that. Usually.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with mine, Pretty happy with
was
my power.
too. It's got a lot of power. But, you get a lot of people that have got, say you've got an old 2H engine, which is a bit tired, and you want power. So, firstly, you go put money on extractors. You go on to spend that money. Then you go, no, let's go.
Take them off.
Turbo.
Put a turbo on.
So you've thrown them in the bin or got rid of those for next to nothing. You now got a new manifold, you got a turbo, you put all that expense. Now you got a turboed 2H. Goes a little bit better, but it's still not what you're probably hoping for. You're always trying to, and then all of a sudden you a little bit more boost. I'll do this, and all of a sudden it starts lifting ahead, or and then all overheating, things like that. And you spend a fortune trying to chase power that's not going to really happen out of that vehicle.
Yeah, look, we see it all the time. I hate to say it, but we see it all the time in the TD world. TD42s, they do accept a turbo. It does make them go, quite a bit better. But at the same time, there's so many things you've got to do. You've got to do pumps. You've got to do injectors. You've then got to go and put a bigger radiator in. You've got to put a top mount in. You've got to move that to the front because you're not. It's just you're constantly chasing your tail.
I think when power goes too far and people are trying to chase 300 plus horsepower out of a four-wheel drive, and look. Yeah. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do because I'm going to be doing that very soon. This one's going to have a fair bit of power, but the 30 is going to have a fair bit more power.
Yeah, we were talking about it last night, and what did you pulled some pretty gnarly figures out.
Well, it might make nearly 300 horsepower at the wheels.
But you've put a significant amount of work in. You know exactly what you're doing.
And it's a lot of money.
A lot of money
has been spent to get that power. But here's the thing. When you go too much power, and depending on what turbo and setup, you might go really well on the beach, for instance, but as soon as you get into low range, you might not be making power. And I'm talking about spending $15,000 or more on chasing power, which is a lot of money, obviously. Imagine if that power is not being made till 2,500 RPM in a diesel, which is almost irrelevant off-road.
100%. You need it down low.
So I've been forward driving with guys that have got 300 horsepower at the wheels and this big GU and all the rest of this. I'm like, wow, they're going to drive everything.
Nah,
they can't because it doesn't make any power down low, which is where you need it in four-wheel drive. The old farm truck, it doesn't make much power, but it's all down low, and every single usable bit of torque is down at about 1,000 RPM. It's just and it just does it.
Yep.
So you're chasing power too much, and it might actually ruin the feel of your vehicle.
Or what you want your vehicle for.
Exactly.
Way more importantly.
A big thing as well is weight of the vehicle. Now, weight is one of those things. I never gave it much consideration when I first started modifying cars. It was all about it's a four-wheel drive, it'll handle anything you throw at it.
Yep.
You start putting all the bar work on, bigger tyres, draw system, 12 volt. All of a sudden, that weight is creeping up near the maximum GBM. Now, there's two things, in my opinion. Number one, legalities.
100%.
They become illegal when they're overweight. And two, they just don't drive the same. They don't drive the same on the road or even off the road. They wallow, they don't handle good. You end up breaking more things off-road as well, I find.
Yep.
So weight is one of those things. You need to consider when you're building a car is how much weight you're putting into it.
Yeah, we did an open day at Fulcrum where we brought in members of the public could just come along and weigh their vehicles and test their GBM. And we were blown away. I forget the figures, but it was something like 80% of people that came in were over GBM.
Yeah, and they had no idea well. They had no idea. So,
and why does that matter? I guess I should just touch on that. It probably doesn't matter as you're just driving. If your car drives well and you're over GBM, you're probably never going to think about it. But the day you go and try and do an insurance claim and they can bring it back to a GBM fault, forget it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Forget it.
Exactly right. And just keep an idea of what your vehicle's weighing. Like, firstly, when you get your vehicle, what it weighs and how much leeway you've got. Do you have 500 kilos up your sleeve? Because 500 kilos goes pretty quick.
Super quick.
When you fill your diesel tanks right up, you know, you got all your camping gear in the back. It's not a lot of weight when you put a bull bar and a winch and stuff on there.
Some cars are really close too. Some manufacturers have got there's very little tolerance in that. You put your entire lot of passengers in.
Yeah.
In some instances, and you're pretty close.
Big mistake I made with the Dirty 30 when I was building that. I had the original steel tray on the back, and you know, it looked great. And then I had a steel half canopy. It was so heavy on the back, and I ended up changing the whole rear setup. Looks really cool now.
Yep.
But you know, who wants to go through the effort of having 2 setups on the back of a car? Get it
right first.
Yeah, get it right first. I should have gone alloy straight away to try and save weight.
Yep. Now, speaking of mistakes, I'm sure this bloke has made more mistakes than the average man. So I reckon we cut across to Jocko.
We're only talking about cars though, Jocko. Try and keep it kind of on point, mate.
His mum and dad made a mistake. Now let's just cut across to Jocko and see what he's got to say.
Hey guys, just in the shed playing with the Luxie, so I thought it'd be the perfect time to answer this one. Yeah, biggest mistakes when building a four-wheel drive. I've definitely made a few. This one would go out to people who are looking at doing a bigger conversion, like a suspension conversion or an engine conversion or something like that. And it's to budget for more than you think you might need. I know that's a bit of a general statement, but what I mean by that is if you decide to tackle a big project on your four-wheel drive, there's probably going to be some hidden costs involved that you may not have thought about when you budgeted for them. And they'll be for certain things on the vehicle where if you don't do them at that time while everything's apart and out, it's going to be a much bigger deal to do it later. To give you an example, with this four-wheel drive, when we were doing the solid axle swap, I didn't brace the front housing, and bracing just obviously makes it stronger. On these 80 series housings, what can happen over a long period of time is they can actually bend a little bit after some tough four driving, and axle seals and things can leak. And at the time, it was, you know, more money I had to spend. It was another thing, and I was just like, oh, we'll just chuck it in. I can always do it later. And thinking that now, if I wanted to do it now, I'd have to strip the whole housing and do it again. Probably could knock it over in a weekend, but it's just something that would have been way easier to do at the time. So yeah, I've definitely made a lot of mistakes with building this four drive. Lots of little ones in the shed by myself, but I don't hate that because I reckon it's one of the best ways to learn when you're building a four drive is making those little mistakes and building on them. As long as you learn from what you've done, then you'll be a better four driver for it. Anyway, fellas, I'm going to hook back into it. It was good to chat to you.
As always, mate, good advice from young Jocko.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about building cars, and he's gone a very, I suppose, hardcore route with his vehicle, and you know loves it. But obviously, he's made a lot of mistakes along the way, just like everyone else.
But learnt from him for sure.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, mate, we've had heaps of people sort of answer some social media questions of stuff they've learnt or found when building up their rigs, and there's a few here that we just wanted to go through because there's some stuff I hadn't thought about in the past. So let's go through a few here, mate.
Yeah, sure, mate. This one from Chris John Wakely Palmer.
That's a strong name,
There's
Chris.
a lot of names in that. I don't know which one you want to take on. We'll just call you Chris. Rushing and thinking that he needs everything now and buying cheap quality. There's a few mistakes in what you've just said there, and that's rushing the build process. There's nothing worse.
Yep.
Even myself, I've been around, I know a lot of products on the market. Sometimes just taking the time to have a real good think about what you need, you end up buying the wrong stuff, you've just wasted money.
We've got one here from Casey. Spending on building when I should have just started with tyres and actually hit the tracks. Yeah, look, I get you. A lot of people do this. We see it when we get around to the show circuit. People spend a mozza on stuff straight up, and then they haven't got any money to go out and actually wheel the car.
Yeah, or they realise they didn't need half of that stuff, and it's not actually helping them. So they've wasted a lot of money instead of making memories. I think that's what it's all about.
We've got one. I can't read out the entire message here from Paddy, but Paddy made a big mistake. He was welding the deck of the tray from underneath, and he melted a certain part of his anatomy to his leg. Well, that's a huge mistake there, Paddy.
It hasn't been very accurate to get that.
I would have needed a pinpoint piece of swarf in order for that to happen. Paddy, you might be a better man than me. I'm not too sure. Sam, not putting a fuse on the second battery.
Yeah. Sometimes to save a few bucks on the old 12-volt system, you end up not only just having to redo the whole lot again, but potentially burning your truck down in the process. Ask Bailey about that.
Oh, yeah, Bailey. Well, yeah. Bailey nearly lost the whole darn lot.
Yep.
We got Shaun here buying something someone else built.
Well, that can be a good or bad thing.
Can be.
Now, if they've cut a lot of corners and that's why they're selling it,
You inherit
you've
that
just
problem.
inherited a huge problem.
Yep.
Sometimes just buying it yourself, at least you know the problem you're dealing with.
Better the devil you know sometimes.
100%, mate. There's one more issue that that people have sometimes, and a mistake that they make. And everyone's trying to do things on a budget, and I get that. I'm one of those blokes who's trying to save a few bucks where I can.
Yep, fair enough.
But there's sometimes when you buy too cheap a quality, and it ends up biting you in the backside, and then you've got to go and buy the more expensive one. So you've spent money on the cheap one, it hasn't performed like it should, you end up spending more money again. You're just throwing good money after bad.
A poor man buys twice.
They say that.
Yes.
They say that.
Yes, buy once, buy right.
The best products out there, in my opinion, are the ones that are affordable, yet good quality. If you can get that nice balance where it's not the cheapest, but it's affordable, but it's good quality.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. It doesn't have to be top level either.
No.
That can be sort of that, doesn't have to be mid-range. It's sort of that,
There's certain
right,
things,
it's a sweet spot.
some things with my 12 volt, I want to go a little bit, because I know that stuff just needs to work. I don't want it to let me down in the bush. Brake suspension, things like that I want to be good quality. There's a lot of things I will.
Classic example, as far as I'm concerned, is an air compressor. Go and buy the best air compressor you can, and you'll never get rid of it. You'll have it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
or
true.
you can go and buy a really, really cheap one. It'll pump up 7 tyres and die. You'll throw it in the bin, and you'll go and buy another air compressor. Just get one air compressor and buy the best you possibly can.
That's good.
You'll never get another one. Well, folks, I think we've covered a heck of a lot there. You can see between the two of us, there's a lot of mistakes being made, but of course, a lot of lessons learnt as well. But we've probably forgotten something. There's probably something out there that you folks have done that we haven't even thought of. So please, I want to go through the comments afterwards and have a look. Because you never know, it might...
Your biggest mistakes, let us know.
Show us your biggest mistakes.
And we're talking about four-wheel drives as well.
Exactly.
Not relationships and things like that.
Oh, good catch. So put them in the comments down below, folks. I'd love to hear from you.
I reckon time for a giveaway, mate.
And, good call.
And we've got 10 EVC throttle controllers as well as code breakers to give away.
What's a code breaker? Tell the folks at home.
Well, these are cool. Now, if you've got an OBD2 or OBD5 port, basically a newish sort of vehicle, well, you're out in the bush, some of the things I get worried about with a new car is if it throws a code. And then you want to be able to clear that code. You're not near a dealer. The code breaker does exactly that. It does a lot more than just break codes and get you back on the road. Imagine you had 10 different gauges or even more in one little handy space in your dash. You can measure fuel economy. There's so much
engine
you can
temps,
do.
water temps, all sorts of things.
All that sort of stuff. AFRs, you want to get a little technical and stuff like that.
Look at you with the big words.
Fuel ratios.
Yeah. So you can leave it plugged in or you can unplug it, but if you've got a modern car, you have to carry one with you.
I think so. It's very cheap insurance. But we're going to give away 10 throttle controllers and code breakers. So
to win, all you got to do?
It's very simple, mate.
Leave a comment below and tell us about the vehicle you're building and your plans for it.
That's cool.
It's really simple.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people have got builds on the go, and we'll go through those comments, mate. And choose some lucky winners.
Righto, folks. Leave your comments down below, and I wish you the best of luck because that's 10 cracking prizes right there.
Really is, mate. Now it's time for Deal of the Month. Now, the guys over at Direction Plus, mate, have got a huge saving on their Trans Chill oil coolers, the ProVent catch cans, and of course, this one here, the pre-line pre-filters. So these are cool, man. This is actually going into Sooty, this one. I can't wait. They're a good thing. 15% off right now, mate. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Doesn't. We just put some of those in the brand new camera car. Have you seen that camera car?
It's looking cool.
It's looking very cool.
Really cool.
It's got that gear all through it too.
We always put these stuff in here. As far as I'm concerned, when you're out in the bush, you want to make sure that you don't get water in your fuel. You'll be up for thousands and thousands of bucks.
Oh, more. You could write the whole thing off.
Catch can, it's a must-have for a diesel owner if you own a new car. And obviously, if you're running an automatic, temperature's the biggest things that kill automatic transmission. So having an oil cooler up the front is the go.
It's a must.
So
Absolute
all cheap insurance, but to get 15% off now's the time to buy, I reckon. Well, mate, from your shed, you've seen enough of my shed. Let's get into your shed because there's a lot of things happening around Australia from, cool builds, fails, all sorts of stuff. I love saying this, mate.
We've got prizes, of course. We've got prizes for best rigs, best fails. We've got all sorts of things going on here. So without any further ado, we're going to cross the ditch to NZ. NZ.
Now, this thing is an absolute monster. It's actually quite intimidating. Even when I was watching the video, I was like, this is a proper little rig.
What's going on with the stack out the bonnet?
I guess they can get away with a lot over the ditch.
That's crazy.
That's pretty low safe.
You can't do that.
Can you imagine if old Soot had a stack on the bonnet? I wouldn't be able to see a thing. I couldn't drive anywhere.
You're like a squid with its bum facing forward. Be horrible to watch. Have a look at this Hilux, mate.
Yeah, it's like the pony, but just much neater and better. It flexes like a sick giraffe, mate. It's just one of those. I love it when people. I call it saving a classic because they've got an LA106, which is a classic, and they've put a lot of love and effort. That is a vehicle that's going to survive.
And I believe Blake might be a bit of a photographer. Some really good shots there, Blake. Good on you, bro. Mm-hmm. Oh, the old Barraswap GU.
He's one of your crew, mate. This is without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You can't tell me you wouldn't want to take that for a fang.
Oh, how do you make a GU even better? Because I thought you couldn't with a forklift motor. Take the forklift motor out, put a taxi motor in. No, come on, Heath. That's a rig, mate. It's a rig.
Heath, I'll send you his phone number, mate. You can have a good chat to him. Look, he's done a good job on that. That's an absolute weapon. I reckon that'd be something to drive.
What about this one, mate? From one Nissan to another. Yeah. This is a big Navara. I actually really like Navaras.
I like the shape of them. Always have. I reckon they look tough.
Yeah.
And this one here.
I like the D22s. They're my favourite, I think, out of all of them. A very good second-hand buy.
Yeah, they are.
Not that James would be selling his one.
No, I don't think he would be. He's done the old I don't need air through the radiator trick and put all his spotlighters up front. But that's okay because it's a Navara. Probably doesn't overheat
big tyres
anyway.
on it. Gee,
huge tyres on it. But you can see what he does.
He sent that through via TikTok as well. So
TikTok. I don't really dig the TikTok. I don't know what to do. I can't dance. I get all embarrassed.
Mate, you're about 48 years old. Too old for TikTok.
I'm too old for just. Shouldn't be on there. Now, speaking of age, this young fella here is the one. He was 13 when he picked up an old 80 series with his old man.
Yeah, and him and his dad were restoring the 80.
How cool is that?
I know, it's a cool story. I like that.
Now, what I like about it even more, can we just jump forward a couple of years? He's now 15.
Wow.
And I'd like you to have a look at his 80 series, and I'd like you to just turn your head left and right.
No need, mate, no need, because looking very similar. Cotto, that's a real credit to you, mate. That 80 is looking absolutely flash. You've taken that from literally rags to riches. I'm actually hoping, getting a little bit of inspo from you at the moment, mate, that if I can make mine look as good as that.
Crazy good.
I'm pretty stoked with that.
Yeah, I'd have that in my driveway for a little while.
What's so cool about it, though, is while he's been sort of waiting to get his licence, Connor's has been learning to drive in the old paddock basher and stuff, and his dad actually surprised him.
Oh, he snuck out.
Snuck out and got it regoed for him. So when he's ready to drive this thing, it's ready to go.
That.
I know. How excited would you be?
You wouldn't want to take that thing off-road.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
What do you reckon? With all the work that he's done there, I reckon he's a worthy snatch winner. Snatch voucher.
Yeah, why not? What do you say? $100 snatch voucher
$100
coming your way, mate.
Crikey.
You can get one of these nice new hoodies.
Oh, yeah. These things are the bomb.
Look at that.
Absolute bomb.
Mate, what about some fails? Now,
everyone loves them.
I'll let you start. You're probably the best at fail. We're not talking about hunting fails. We're talking about four-wheel drive fails.
Oh, I've got to spend 3 weeks in the bush with this bloke, and I am ordinarily I'm looking forward to it. But anywho, let's just try and ignore him for a second. TJ his name's not TJ. His car's a TJ, and I reckon that would have been a heart-in-the-mouth moment. Look where he slid from, all the way up there.
And the tyres just gone completely.
See ya.
Straight off the wheel.
Both have.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
That's a nightmare. You and this bloke, Nathan, the only two people I've ever seen taking two tyres off two rims at the same time.
It's an exclusive club Nathan and I belong to. Now, this is one for you, mate.
Look, someone found this obviously on the internet. Now, when I first saw this photo, I must admit, I thought the fail was just that badge at the front, the old Pajero. But then I looked a bit closer, got the old toilet seat. That's a handy little mod. I mean...
One thing we really have to, off health and safety here, folks, you cannot use that whilst driving the vehicle.
No,
you have to stop the vehicle.
Exactly right. Don't leave that on.
No.
Don't leave that on. It gets very messy as well. And be careful where you're driving out. Make sure you bury that. Anyway, that's pretty fun.
Oh, what's going on here, mate? For goodness sake.
This is actually worse than a fail.
It is.
For one, a ranger tow on a jet ski, I mean, that should be its own little section.
You really are digging some holes today, mate.
I'm having a go, because to drive through the ocean like that,
Yeah.
I mean, you got rocks in your head. Honestly.
It is a bit hardcore. That car's pretty much done.
In your glove box. I reckon that's a full ride off that car.
That car's pretty much done.
That's a fail.
It is a big fail.
Double island point. Say no more.
Yep. All right, we've got another TikTok here. I tell you what, when I go on TikTok, I don't get things like this. But what we're seeing here, we've driven this before.
We've tried to drive it.
Yeah, we tried to drive this before, and that tree wasn't there. I don't believe it.
Yep. And Mitchell on TikTok as well. He's he's just winched off that tree, has he?
Well, he has, but he's not anymore.
No,
because he's taken that to firewood now.
Far out.
He's almost put it in the back too. If he just flipped over a little bit more, he'd be able to put that in the back and burn it.
Yeah, Mitchell, you've had a go, mate. Well done.
Oh my lord, Tristan.
I know. Look. You borrowed his boss's car. Now, that's got to be the winner.
Good on you.
If you borrow your boss's car and flood it like that.
Big time too.
Tristan, far out, mate. And just a quick thing, I know that car's probably a write-off.
No, he'd be fine.
No, he'd be fine because it's an 80 series. But here's just a quick thing. If you do have a very clean example of the front fascia of an 80 series dash, get in touch with me. I'm after.
I reckon this has got a high tide mark on it, mate. You might need to wash it
The
first.
water didn't come that high.
Now, look, folks, if you've seen a fail on here and you reckon you failed better, can you fail better? You can fail better, I really. Get in touch with us. It's very simple to do.
Very
All you got to
easy.
do is use the hashtag 4WD247fails, or you can use 4WD247rigs hashtags on the both ends of those.
Yep.
Because we look through all those. How many are there
You
now?
tag us on TikTok. I didn't even know you could do that.
I'm not going in there. But
That's a gateway.
of course, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got the whole lot, and
Yeah.
of course TikTok. Yeah, it's all there, folks.
Absolutely. Well, I reckon that's enough for us, mate, because we've
We've
got a
got so much
lot
to
of
do.
work to do. We're going
Yep.
to the top end, and to be honest, in true Shaun fashion, had not started packing. So I need
Apparently,
to
he's
start
just
on that.
roped me into helping service the Dirty 30
When I asked
before we
him
go.
what he was doing this Arvo, he said not much. He said he's all pretty much packed. He was
Yep.
all proud of that. Beauty. You're helping me service that vehicle, and we're going to go into my shed, get some lures out as well.
I can do that bit.
I've got a stack of fishing gear in here.
Sick.
Barra,
I can do
coming
that.
up, mate.
What have we got coming up in the weeks ahead on Forward
Well,
347?
you'll get to see this girl's
yes.
final trip, Sooty's last ever trip.
Yep.
And that's an exciting one. It's quite an emotional one, but
Oh, he's getting real emotional. He's teared up on us. We've lost him.
obviously very sentimental sort of trip. I was
Yeah.
a little emotional, and like everything Sooty does, nothing in halves. You know when you're sort of like, this is a retirement, last trip,
Yep.
ready to go.
Let's just baby you through it.
Yeah, just go through it. No, not at all. It's probably some of the wildest stuff that's ever happened to Sooty. You'll get to see it all on YouTube. We had the cameras rolling the whole time. Some of the things you'll see.
It should almost be
if
illegal.
you thought if you thought Sooty was a bit of a legend before, just wait till you watch this one. And I won't say no more. I'll reckon.
looking forward to it.
It's,
I wasn't
it's
on
actually,
that
It's
trip.
actually, you remember, you actually rang me after that one and said, I wish I was on Sooty's
Yeah, I
last
did.
trip.
I should have been. I mean, I've been a big part of that vehicle throughout
Yeah.
this entire life, and I missed its last trip. So I'll be watching it with a beer in hand. Speaking of last trips, we've also got a first trip coming up. I have only driven my Y62 12 kilometres off-road.
Yep. It
6
broke
down to the
down,
beach.
did
Nope. It dug great big massive holes because of all the power. No, it didn't. 6 goes down to the beach, 6 goes back, but I'm about to take it on its very first trip.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm
I
going to
actually
go
wanna
and
say
spend
that.
a night out and just work out the bugs and iron out the bits and pieces I need to.
Got any
So
mechanic mates?
don't need them. It's a 62, mate. It's a 62. Don't need them. Also, of course, we've got our first episode of what we are packing to do right now.
Yeah.
We don't even know how it's going to go, and that, of course, is our golf adventure.
You know, every time I say we're going up the top end, up into the Gulf, people are saying, is the Gulf open? And I was
Yep.
like, they're like worried because it's so wet up there. We don't
is
even
wet.
know if we're going to get up there, but like anything we do, it's going to be a proper adventure.
We're going. We're going no matter what. So, folks, we've got a lot of work to do to get that thing up and ready. D-Max is sitting up there proudly looking at me going, come
Ready
on,
to go.
let's
We've
go,
got a
let's
stack
go.
of lures that need trebles on the back of them and a beer fridge that needs
He's got a
emptying.
beer fridge, so I'm about to
I reckon we
help
get
myself.
stuck in. Anyway, see you
Cheers,
around next
guys.
time, folks.